Hello everyone, welcome to another video. This video is going to be two-parters. Both are going to be talking about essay number 3, an argument, more specifically, and the different parts of this essay that I think are really important to know about. Please watch essay number 3 video if you have not done so already, to just know about the assignment sheet before you understand a little bit more information about this. So again, as I said on that other video, essay number 3 is going to be an argumentative research essay. You can choose your own topic with kind of exceptions to this. I do have some exceptions on the last video in the assignment sheet, so please look at that again. You should avoid writing a binary argument. So no matter what type of argument you make, it's always going to, you don't want to be a binary. And I also want to say that this PowerPoint is going to be available on Blackboard under the Readings tab. So go ahead and check that out if you want to kind of slide through these, look at these slides as I'm talking to you about them, or like after I get done talking, or whenever you want to. Again, a binary or binary opposition are two similar entities that oppose each other. So a lot of times I get pro-con arguments, which aren't really arguments, it's just a list of different pros and cons. Similar with positive and negatives, I've seen a lot of essays where somebody just lists the positive, negatives, or pros and cons of a specific topic. You 100% do not want to do that. Absolutely don't, okay? But other times I have somebody might write an argument, but it's very one-sided. So it's like somebody should or should not do this, or all guns should be allowed or no guns should be allowed, or something like that. Binaries often are going to simplify these ideas that need to be complicated. So in order to break out that binary, again, think a little bit more critically, ask questions, kind of pretend you're a toddler and you're asking lots of why questions. Why, like I'll say, ask why? Why is this like this? Why is this going on? Really push yourself and ask lots of questions to think more critically about whatever topic you have decided to write about in order to form the most analytical thesis. As you're writing, come back to this PowerPoint. A lot of time, like even last semester when I was, talking, I had students, not necessarily in the classroom, but online at a certain time, I was talking to my students more. A lot of times they would be really confused about what they could be writing about or what their paper might look like, and I would always say, come back to this PowerPoint. Later on in the PowerPoint, I'm going to give more specific advice about what a thesis might look like. So not all introductions or essays have to look identical to what I'm talking about in this PowerPoint, because there are a lot of different ways to write. However, if you're struggling with your paper, this PowerPoint might be a really good example about how you might go about doing that. But don't forget about it. So come back if you're struggling. I can definitely help you, because this advice is going to be, usually somebody watches this video or reads the PowerPoint and forgets about it. And then once they're struggling actually writing the essay, they forget to come back. So please come back. What argument is not? So I'm going to talk about a little bit what argument is and isn't. So argument is not a report. Sometimes I have read essays that are like what I call a data dump, which is just information piled into a paper. And there's no voice from the actual author. There's no analysis. It's just source after source after source after source, or quote after quote after quote after quote. I should be able to see your own ideas and thoughts. So when you bring other people into your essay, they should be the help and support your argument, but those other people should not be making the argument for you. I should still see your thinking. An argument or report or a data dump does not have any of your voice. It's just a bunch of information plopped in there. So you don't want to do that. You want to use information to support and analyze that information and show how it supports your argument, but definitely don't you have to have your own voice in there. Don't mistake argument for opinion. So if your opinion is more biased, somebody might say like vanilla ice cream is my favorite flavor. That is very opinionated. There's no way to support that. It's your favorite. That's exciting. I mean, I prefer chocolate, but that's just to go back and forth. Okay, cool. You like vanilla, but why does that matter? And there's really no argument. It's just an opinion. So you want it to be as less biased as possible, reader-based and fair, Don't be afraid to kill your own babies or challenge your position. So in this, it says where the magic happens, where your comfort zone is. So get out of your comfort zone and be curious. Choose a topic that you don't necessarily know everything about. And I have invention number 3, but I mean topic proposal. You want to, learn during this writing process. So I like to think about your essay, pick a topic that you're a little bit familiar with, but not 100% familiar with. So you might know something, but so you know a little bit where to go with research. But if you've written about this paper before, about this topic before, or you feel like you're an expert on it, you're not really going to learn much. So I want everybody to learn something from this paper. So pick a topic that you're not as familiar with, and you'll have more room to grow. So the difference between reasoning and opinion. So reasoning is what you reason to be correct. So maybe some logical things. So you're analyzing, you're asking questions. So this is correct because, okay, and you have a reason. If you have an opinion, is more of a feeling. I believe this is correct, and there could be a because there, but it's more of how you feel about it. Reasoning is more evidence-based. I have evidence to support this that is has been deemed credible, and you can show the linkage between that evidence in what you're trying to support. Opinion is more of a feeling. I believe this is true because, and there's really no evidence beyond your personal opinion, which isn't necessarily evidence. Your personal experience can be evidence. I had this experience, therefore this could be evidence to say, but just because you feel it doesn't mean it's necessarily true. So two ways you could think about reasoning, different pieces of evidence or observations. This could also be personal experience, your perspective, observation. So you can put yourself in your essay, but that observation can be used as evidence. This is evidence that's showing why I'm thinking this because. But if you just say, I feel it, and there's really no evidence, and it's just your opinion, there's no observation there. It's just how you feel. And I hate when people say, what somebody says, like, well, just because, or I really don't know why, but it's just the way things are. Well, why are they the way things are? Why is it happening? Ask those questions. So observations and also facts. So get those facts that can be percentages, it can be like irrefutable facts from credible sources that you find online. Reasoning, again, thinking about why your observations or facts matter. So asking those questions, making connections between all of your observations or to find a thesis or claim. And while your observations in essay number 2 were mostly about a news article, your observations in essay number 3 will revolve around you. Okay, ideas for introduction. So kind of a lot of the rest of the PowerPoint is going to be ideas for how to start your paper, because I know a lot of people might say, well, how do I start my paper? So this is ideally going to help you all with that. And so kind of 3 parts of this, and again, nobody needs to necessarily have all of these in the same order. If your introduction looks different, but it still kind of serves a lot of the purposes, that's fine. But if you're having trouble, definitely take this advice into consideration. So I have interest, exigency, and thesis. I have said before, I've talked about thesis in other videos. Your thesis does not have to be at the end of the first paragraph. It could be somewhere else in the first paragraph. It could be in the second paragraph. Your introduction does not necessarily be in the same order as I have it. It can kind of switch it up a little bit if you need to. The example essay I have on Blackboard that you're doing a complex book entry for doesn't necessarily have everything in the same order either. And the examples I have going forward are going to be directly from that example essay. An example essay that you're reading is called Freedom of Choice and is about death with dignity, which is kind of sort of similar but different than assisted suicide. And what I love about this essay is a great example of how to take a topic that somebody would typically be binary for. So somebody said assisted suicide is right or wrong, or assisted suicide should be illegal or illegal. What this student is doing, this is just from last semester, what this student is doing instead of going one or the other is they're kind of analyzing language and they're using that in order to find that gray area. So this is a great example of breaking out of that binary is also a great example of not writing a 5-paragraph essay, which are two very difficult aspects to do. So please make sure you pay attention to that as you're doing that complex book entry. But the examples I have in this PowerPoint are from that essay. So if you're having trouble understanding what the thesis is or anything, come look at this, back to this PowerPoint for that information. Okay, so opening sentence tips, you should be able to catch your reader's attention. Don't make it boring, you know, making sure they're interested. Use emotional descriptive language, kind of allowing them to imagine what you might do, approach your topic from a unique angle or perspective. Don't assume your reader knows everything, make them interested. Okay, these are two examples from Many, The Greatest Fear is Not Death. It's being named or disabled, living out the rest in pain. Or if the teacher has to die, August isn't a bad time for it. So being a little bit humorous or potentially sarcastic. This author wrote as I just showed you, they said, imagine laying in your deathbed full of agony and desiring to have control over the last days of your life. So they're talking about assisted suicide. So they're specifically getting the reader to imagine something. Now, every essay could be potentially revised or edited more. So my question to you all as you're watching this video is, does this opening sentence make you, the reader, want to read more? How could it be revised? Okay, so analyzing it a little bit more, thinking about it from the reader's perspective, as we've done all semester. Bad hooks, so don't start your paper with anything remotely close to this. So if you say, in this paper I will, even if it's not the opening sentence, don't say in this paper I will. Don't say that's unnecessary language. Say what you want to say. Just, that's not even an argument that you're going to talk about. Just cut that out. That's unnecessary language. According to Webster's dictionary or any dictionary, why do you feel like you have to define a certain word? Is there a different way, a more vivid way, more interesting way to describe what you're trying to define? And all people have opinions. Some are good, some are bad. I don't even know what this means. It's so incredibly vague. These are usually all sentences I've seen in some variation before, past essays. They're just all vague. If you need to start writing with something like that and be more specific later on, that's fine. But in terms of final drafts, really be specific. Exigency, so you're starting, getting your reader interested. Then you're going to have some exigency. Exigency is why that is important. Similar to in your essay number 1 when you're writing about purpose. So why should somebody read this paper? Why does this matter to someone? So the problem that causes the writer to write could have a broad application, should be academic. So what is the problem that's causing the write? So some exigency from the paper, the example essay. Many terminally ill patients go through that feeling every day, and the feeling they're talking about is the opening sentence, which is imagine laying on your deathbed full of agony and desiring to have control of the last days of your life. So that's like what they're referring to there. Go through this feeling every day. Many states have not passed this act, and they're referring to Death with Dignity Act because of the stigma of assisted death being suicide. Death with dignity is frequently called assisted suicide, which causes a stigma. So the problem they're talking about specifically is the stigma that goes along with the phrase assisted suicide. And having death with dignity associated with the word assisted suicide leads citizens to believe death with dignity is suicide. So all of these are kind of leading to the problem, the larger problem they're talking about, and why they're writing, what is causing them to write. So all of these problems kind of go in together. You don't have to have 3 exigencies, but this author does, and they go together. You could just have 1 if you wanted to. But the writer setting up, could they revise that exigency in any way? Some examples of not having exigency are phrases like death with dignity is very interesting. Is death with dignity suicide? Maybe. Or death with dignity is discussed by the media. All of these, none of them say anything really. It's interesting. Why does that matter? It's an issue. Why does that matter? All of these are things that the other quotes up here that I said from the example essay have already assumed. They already know it's a problem. They already know it's discussed. They already know it's interesting. Why does it matter that it's interesting? Go beyond that and find something more interesting. I'm going to stop this video here on slide 23. And before I go into the next video, part B, which is going to discuss the thesis and the rest of the PowerPoint.